yeah, that must be truth over other people's truth. What
Okay, so it
what
matches
is
our
this piece of
observations, right? So we see like a flat horizon, and we don't feel movement, right? So if I'm going to believe in the globe model, and I did for a while, right? But that's because I didn't look into it. But if I'm going to believe in it, there should be evidence for it, right? I'm not just going to believe it for no reason. So there should be
Like the
empirical
horizon?
scientific evidence. That's what I hold
But
true, empirical or
okay,
scientific
but
evidence.
It seems
right?
like
well, but there's two things right there I want to get into, if I might. Okay, number one, you say you see the flat horizon. Are you sure that you're seeing the horizon flat? And number
To the
two, you
best
say
of
you don't
our
feel
observations.
motion. No, hold on a second. I just want to get these in, just for discussion purposes. Is the second one, you say you don't feel motion, but if you're taking your frame of reference into account, if you're at motion with what you're on, just like say if you're in a car going at freeway speed, you would be at the same inertia. You would not feel that, and there's nothing in the human body that could detect speed, only changes in velocity.
Yeah, I
So you
understand.
can't detect speed. So number one, you can't say that you're actually seeing the horizon. You're just believing it's flat
Okay, let's talk
because
about
you're not seeing the scale of the Earth.
Yeah, let's talk about one thing at a time. So in terms of, not being able to detect speed if you're going constant velocity,
Okay.
I'm with you 100% on that. I agree, right? But two things. Number one, to say it's like to compare it to a car, that's false analogy because I know I entered the car, right? I know what a car is. I know, like, if I'm driving past a tree, for instance, I know what a tree is. I know what those reference points are, and we have more than one reference point, right? So to equate it to space, which we've never been to, is a false analogy, right?
Well, no, that's
two,
begging the question right there, saying space we've never been to. You don't know that for a fact.
So that's what I'm saying. It depends on itself. Like, that's why I call it a house of cards, because you have to believe in the propulsion of space, which has never been demonstrated.
No,
And you
but
have to believe
see,
in a bunch of things for it
it's
to
not a
come
house of
together.
cards though. It's not a house of cards. The science
All right, well,
supports
let me
this
just finish
in
the second part of it
multiplicity.
real quick. Bro, let me just finish the second part. The second part is that,
All right.
in terms of going the same speed, yeah, if we're going in a straight line, same speed, that's fine. But if you're going in a circle, you have to make up for, the loss of speed due to inertia, right? I mean, is it inertia?
You centrifugal force, you mean, right?
Centrifugal force, yeah, the inertia, the centrifugal force, exactly. And that you have to have a little bit of acceleration to account for, to stay in a constant velocity when you're traveling in a circle like that, right?
But we do. That's measurable on
Yeah,
Earth.
and it's my position because I can feel acceleration, right? So I can feel when my body's accelerating. So it's my position that, in terms of what matches our observations, I should be able to feel that acceleration as well.
But no, see, you're mixing it up a little bit because the Earth isn't accelerating at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
Oh, I know
It's
that.
constantly moving, so there's no acceleration.
Yeah, there is acceleration.
There is acceleration.
There is
though, to
acceleration.
maintain that
No, if there was
Yeah,
acceleration, the
too
speed
small.
would
That's-
continue
that's-
to increase.
That's it, philosopher. There's no need to get it wrong. It is accelerating. It's just
the
not
acceleration
accelerating
accounts for the
large
loss
enough for us to be able to
of
proceed.
speed due to the centrifugal force. So, it's a wash, right? Together, it's a wash.
No,
Not even listening.
it's not, and no, it is not continually accelerating. It is constantly
Listen,
moving
man, just
because
stop
the
saying that.
mass of
It's
the Earth
wrong.
is
There's
huge.
no need to argue
Constant
against you
acceleration
and
to
professor at
maintain
the same
constant
time.
speed.
That's wrong. It is accelerating.
No, it is
Constant
not.
acceleration going on in multiple vectors on the Earth.
Acceleration is also a change in direction to maintain a circular
What?
path to change directions
No,
constantly.
acceleration. I don't think you think what you think it means.
Okay,
You
philosopher.
have to change
just
direction
stop.
constantly to
It's
keep spinning
accelerating.
around an
If you're in
axis.
orbit,
which
you're
means inherent
accelerating.
direction.
It's rotating,
let
it's
me bird,
accelerating.
please.
These are real things. That's not the point. The point is that it's too small for your body to perceive.
Because you're saying that speed is only a change in speed or whatever, but it's also acceleration is also a change in direction.
Not necessarily.
No.
He said not
Acceleration
necessarily.
is an increase in velocity.
What is velocity?
Velocity is a vector of speed and
Speed
direction.
over time.
It's speed and direction, speed and direction, speed and direction. So yes,
Thank
there's
you.
acceleration.
So if you're going 60 miles an hour,
Osho gets the points.
and then you're going 60 miles an hour 5 minutes
We
later,
all know
does
that,
it
man.
Accelerate?
But we're speeding this long. There's a guy in here, flat earth, and
If
in
you say
percentage.
speed
We arguing
and/or
against this guy.
direction, yes.
Stop getting it wrong.
A vector of acceleration is not the same as acceleration.
A quick check. Man, that's what we gotta do. Don't be so stubborn with this. Just move on.
Well, okay. Let's. What was the other side of percent? What was the other
The
side?
argument that he's saying is about those accelerations. The answer that you should be giving him is that they're too small for the body to be perceiving. The values of those accelerations are much lower than what the body perceives. Other than the one that's from the rotation, which is the centrifugal force, which just gets subtracted from the downward weight. That's it.
Which is 0.3% change. If I have my numbers, if I have my decimal place correct. So at the equator, things. I mean, that's why when people measure gold and diamonds, they make sure that they actually know where on Earth they actually are, because things will weigh just a teeny tiny bit less, 0.3% less at the equator due to centrifugal force. But if you go to the North Pole, everything's heavier.
And make sure you're giving space for other people to come in, because I think other people are trying to talk the percentage as well.
Oh, I know. I just didn't hear it. Yeah, see, nobody's talking.
Also, saying we only feel acceleration's a little problematic since most people say that everything's in vibration and in constant movement.
Who is these
therefore
most
constant
people?
acceleration.
I thought this
most
was.
people in the science physics world, isn't everything in vibration? Are you saying that?
No,
I think you skipped a couple steps and went down to the theoretical quantum physics.
I would rather
So
hear
since
the
it's
conversation
vibrating,
between
then everything's
percent.
always in motion and acceleration. So that's a little
Yeah.
slippery.
no, that's not quantum physics.
Feel
That's
all
velocity.
accelerations. They have to be large enough and mechanical acceleration for you to be able to feel them.
I would rather.
Something vibrating that's accelerating back and forth.
I'd rather hear the conversation with percent because Lemon is here just to disrupt the conversation.
I'm sure he'll speak eventually, Brenda.
What's up? Am I being addressed?
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Well, I was still having a conversation with you, and you went quiet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were just speaking to the room. What were you
Oh
saying?
no. I was kind of like we were like having a little convention here, and you just went quiet.
So
I
what was your-
was hoping you'd throw some more of your points in, but
It's
I
not
was
a
thinking,
two-person conversation either, philosopher. So just that's what I was reminding you, that just make sure you're giving room for other people to get into.
oh yeah, no, most definitely. It's like we're starting a conversation, we're discussing, and then other people jump in. Hey, I have a point of contention
No,
here.
you're telling him
Yeah,
wrong
let's hear
things, and other people in here want you to stop doing that. Because we also disagree with him, but you were telling him wrong things. So we had to correct you, which is unfortunate and not something that makes the conversation go a different direction. So
Well,
if you want
but
to
it
finish what
was-
you were saying about the acceleration,
I wasn't aware that I had done that. So, my
you guys were talking about the
apologies
acceleration. Go ahead.
Hey, you proved that you could accelerate the conversation in a different direction, but still maintain the same speed.
then. No, I didn't mean to be rude. My bad.
Not being rude.
You're good.
Okay, well, I'm just
I
trying to
said you
be.
were being wrong, but when you guys,
Well, what
you guys
was
were
I
talking about
wrong
the
about that?
acceleration. So you guys can get back on it.
You were wrong that in orbit or that's acceleration. That's angular acceleration. Whenever you're rotating or orbiting something, there will be
Yeah.
acceleration. That's what you were incorrect about.
Oh,
And also
well,
there's a speed change too, but it's
Yeah,
still
well,
acceleration.
I think I might have been unintentionally vague. Is that because when you change the vector, such as with an orbit, that would be two factors of acceleration countering each other. I was just talking about linear speed, and maybe I was just being too generalized in my
Well,
conversation.
we weren't talking about linear speed, but so let's just move this along so that, like I said,
Okay,
we're
well,
not-
yeah, please let's just
What was your point about the
I'll-
acceleration percentage?
Oh, I was just bringing it up because he said that, you know, we wouldn't feel constant speed. And I was saying, well, it's not
That's
just
true.
constant speed, it's also accelerating. And I feel like we would feel that acceleration. I know you guys maintain that it's so small that you won't be able to feel it. But for me, that's a convenient answer because
Well-
whenever I'm accelerating at all, you know.
No. So they've done tests to determine what the threshold is for the human body. There's actual tests. There's values for acceleration.
What's the lowest
So the value for the acceleration downwards, 9.8 meters per second squared, is much bigger than the perceivable threshold. But that they've done thresholds, and the threshold that a human can feel is within 0.1 meters per second squared. So anything below that is going to be outside of the perception of your body.
Can you point me to these tests? It sounds like interesting stuff.
Yeah, when I get a chance, but not right now. I mean, you can look it up though. You sound like you're on a computer too. Look it up. But yeah, when I get back, I can look that up for you.
Like
I'm gonna have to do the same thing you would have to do though, of course. Just Google it and look it up. But I'll go ahead and do it.
I'll do it right now. What are the keywords?
You can do a threshold for human perception of acceleration.
That all that tested it?
Say again?
I said, do you remember the organization that all that tested
No, I don't. No, not at all. It was a paper though. It was a paper, so you can go on Google Scholar and do it, or you can just do .pdf or whatever. It's just. Like I said, when I get a chance, I can look it up for you. So give me 10 minutes.
The Globers actually have a
So,
great.
Kosho, does the orbital or rotational speed of the Earth change constantly?
Yes, it does. There's a slight eccentricity of the orbit, therefore it's obviously changing direction all the time, but the magnitude of the acceleration is also changing. Sorry, the magnitude of the velocity change because the acceleration effect.
Yeah, it changes by about 2,000 miles per hour in the course of 6
Excuse for why we
months.
don't feel any motion.
Jeremy, shut up.
I'm just telling them, it's a good,
No
This
clue
shit
what
is-
you're talking about in this.
this shit is solid. for
Jeremy,
why
you wanna-
The comment has been made that the threshold for human acceleration is at a value which is lower than which can't be perceived.
Jeremy, do you want to know a really simple way to
That's what I just
prove
said.
that you can't trust your senses on this stuff? Just spin around like 10 times and then stand still.
Also,
I was going with what you guys said that.
yeah,
Jeremy, it's
we're not
Jeremy,
limited to human perception though. So,
Jeremy, it's not the excuse, it's the reason why we can't feel acceleration and why that argument is valid.
it's the reason we need devices and tools, and we have tools and devices that can perceive that.
This argument is silly, Jeremy, because this is something you don't need flat Earth or round Earth either. You just have to look up
We've already been through this.
any medical studies that show this.
I don't
There's
know why you
plenty of
guys
them
are
that
attacking
exist.
me. I was on your side. I said, yeah, the Globers, they have a good reason or excuse or whatever
I
word
was
I
just
use.
asking a simple question that I didn't really know the answer to.
I don't know why you're attacking me for no reason.
Because you said excuse.
What's the greatest
Is reason,
difference?
are reason and excuse not synonymous or?
No, it's
the ultimate
not.
difference is,
One has a negative connotation because you like throwing that word in there.
But yeah, smooth. Yeah, for the speed, if you're asking about the speed of the orbit, it changes by about 2,000 miles in the course of 6 months. But the maximum difference of it changing is probably going to be during its aphelion, or was it perihelion, the one where it's closest?
No, Kosho. Those are the
Okay,
points
I'm
where the
gonna have to
maximum and
interrupt.
minimum velocity. The acceleration is happening the entire time.
I know that.
Guys,
It's happening the entire time, Rocket. What he asks is when was the greatest change, and usually the greatest change is
Guys,
going to be when it's closer.
I have to interject real quick. Excuse and reason is actually a synonym, so I'll post it right now in the debate chat box.
No, an excuse is a poor reason.
Whatever, man.
Guys,
it's a
how
synonym.
about we have that kind of chat in the side chat, because it's not.
And
Not
also,
really.
also
Equivalent of work
this
now.
change in rotational velocity happens over the course of 12 hours. That's actually a very long time for the rate at which the human brain perceives time.
Fuck's sake. Fuck's sake. So, for fuck's sake. Yeah, Smooth. To answer your question, I think it was answered. Percentage, I'm looking it up now too.
Yeah, I found this Quora article which does a pretty good job of going over, like giving like a meta kind of analysis of the different studies. It says here, within the range of 2 hertz to 200 hertz, which a lot of the studies focus on, the number, like the range is 0.01 to 0.1 meters per second squared.
Your audio is really low.
Really quiet now.
Yeah, you're really low, dude. Is there any way you could?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's better.
Cool.
So you said that one had a range. So yeah, yeah, I guess in the extreme
it
scale,
says
that
it
one.
depends on a lot of things like the frequency of the vibration, the body part, sensing the vibration, the axis, the length. But yeah, within the range of 2 to 200 hertz, 0.01 to 0.1 meters per second squared.
Yeah, so
Well,
things
we
like
go from like 18.3 miles a second to like 18.9 miles per second throughout the year. I mean, that's well past the 0.1,
no,
meters per
it's
second.
not well past Lemon. It's well below it. That's 200 miles per hour's difference in 6 months. That's the acceleration.
That's half a mile.
Citation
Over 6
needed.
months.
1 meters per second.
Yeah, over the course of 6 months. That's how long it takes to change that speed. That means the acceleration is very small. We can do the numbers for you if you'd like.
That's free
but I
fall.
don't think
This is in free fall though. This is in free fall around the sun, which means that you're not going to experience any acceleration.
Yeah, there's this plane called the Vomit Comet, and when it does its dive, you experience literal free fall. You're falling at the same rate as gravity, but you're inside a plane, so you don't just fly away, and splat on the ground. So when you put a buoyancy tower in there, you notice that it
Please
completely mixes.
we're going like 5,000 directions, man. And if you were in a comet environment that was accelerating, you would be able to detect that. If it was accelerating while it was falling, it thrusts while it falls, but if it was accelerating and going faster and faster, it would be something that would be perceivable.
Well, yeah, because the plane would catch up with
It
you.
is accelerating. Kosho, you're talking
No,
nonsense.
it's thrusting. But I'm saying if it was continuously, if it was continuously going faster and faster and faster.
But it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's going so it can maintain the downward acceleration of 9.81 meters per second squared. But if it was increasing that, you'd be able to.
The acceleration is going in the direction of the gravity vector. So it's
Precisely.
canceling out the gravity. That's why you don't experience any. Well, that's why when you're falling, even though your velocity is changing, you don't experience acceleration.
Yeah, when they're coming back into Earth, they're falling, and they still experience upwards of 10 Gs.
When they hit the atmosphere,
It's still them falling
because
though.
they're being slowed by the atmosphere, not because they're being accelerated by gravity. They're
I know,
being
that's what I'm
decelerated
saying,
by
that's
the
what I'm saying.
atmosphere.
Yeah, there's the acceleration
Yeah.
of the moon,
But
of the Earth.
What Lemonbird is talking about is the change in the velocity of the Earth as it moves through its orbit around the sun, from aphelion to perihelion, right? So that's not a change you're going to experience in the same way that when the astronauts are accelerating or decelerating towards the Earth because of the change in their orbit, they're not experiencing any change within the vehicle. They're still weightless within the vehicle. They're not experiencing any change in their acceleration.
But the thing is, because 10.1 meters per second is at the human threshold, and we have something well beyond the human threshold.
No, you're not going to experience that. It doesn't matter. When we're talking about acceleration due to gravity, you're not going to experience any acceleration.
The evidence says that, we should feel this. I mean, I find that hard to believe.
Lemonbird, you've already said multiple times that you've chosen to reject reality and substitute your own. So I don't really know what you're trying to add to this conversation.
The acceleration is in the same direction as the gravity vector.
Scrutiny. I mean, it just sounds like you guys are not willing to hold this model up to any scrutiny, or not just, writing it a bunch of blank checks.
It was just what I was saying.
Lemonbird, when you're free falling in the vomit comet, you're not experiencing acceleration, even though the plane is in fact accelerating.
Obviously, you're accelerating when the vomit comet makes sudden movements. That energy is still there. Of course,
but when the airplane is free falling, when it's in its parabola, or when it's climbing up and free falling in the parabola, then it's equalizing the acceleration due to gravity, which is why you're weightless, and you're not experiencing acceleration, even though your velocity is in fact changing.
So the orbit around the sun, two things. The value would be extremely low, much lower than the threshold that presenter just said. But Jake's right, because that's the only cause for that change in velocity is the falling towards the sun. Yeah, it's not, you're not going to experience that. Yeah, thanks, Jake. That's a good point.
But you're still changing direction, and you're still changing speed to go up and down in the vomit comet. So there's still acceleration there.
Yeah, over the total of the whole flight, but during the point of free fall, you are not experiencing that.
Earth around the sun. Once again, so again, what I just said, the value is lower than the threshold. That's one. Two, that's irrelevant because you wouldn't experience it anyways because it's in free fall the entire time. I want the Earth around the sun.
All the forces are balanced. Even though it's changing direction, all the forces are balanced. Because it's an orbit. All the forces are in equilibrium.
And also, when you're in the vomit comet, you can feel, this sensation like, something is, falling like in an elevator. You can still feel something. Your hair is going up. You got the little...
That's because you go from being... That's just because
acceleration and deceleration. It seems like something is still being felt even there.
No, it's being felt because you go from being under the force of Earth's gravity to not feeling the force of Earth's gravity.
Yeah,
that's why you get that feeling in your stomach. But if that's sustained without a change, there's no change after that point.
And also, that bag of flesh that you call a body sags under gravity. When you take gravity away, yeah, you can feel it.
My body is firm, toned, and tight, and unaffected by this.
You're still a meat bag, okay? You're still a bag of meat with some bones in it. As soon as you take the weight off the bones, you can feel that. That's just within your nervous system's capability is to feel such changes as minimal as that. But you cannot sense speed. You can only sense changes in acceleration.
I think you guys.
And when you're in free fall, those forces are neutralized.
Model true, and that sounds like a convenient excuse to me at that point.
Flat Earth is just a very convenient excuse to not actually observe the world.
Go ahead, bud. I'm sorry, I overtalked.
You're fine. You're fine.
What about pressure mediation, right? So the pressure, the medium within the airplane is all moving right in the same direction. So there's actually no pressure come from any point, unlike the pressure outside the plane. So really the plane's housing, getting the pressure while you're all of a sudden experiencing what we call free fall or whatever.
What does that have to do with pressure?
Exactly.
Well, you have if you have all the, what you call it, the molecules, everything all moving in the same direction, which I guess you'd say, you know.
I know this is encouraged, but can you just mute the babbler?
You're probably just showing up as reality. We're talking about the orbit around the sun, and it was the parabolic flight was used as an example, but we're not talking about that. And it would take, we would have to go another direction to tell you why you were wrong about what you just said. So just hold on a second. I'm not sure percentage is still here, so I'm not sure it matters.
Hey, will somebody just mute Curve?
No, we're not going to be Curve. We're not going to.
No, just get rid of him.
We're not going to have a personal thing.
He just seems to upset. He just seems to upset people. Is all he seems to do.
Not upsetting anyone, man. So just why don't you stop doing?
Well,
Instead of talking about you and Curve, like we're probably about to. Why don't we just stop, man?
Man, he
Well, okay.
He shuts up and just lets people speak instead of.
Well, let's just move on.
Smack. I don't get it.
If we just move
I haven't
on.
said a word all day, and here comes.
You came in leading with your dummy. Okay?
Hey, shut up, man. Shut your mouth. Be a man.
Right out of the
shut
fucking
up.
gate.
Be a man and shut up.
Look, we were talking about the Earth's orbit around the sun.
You are a punk, man.
It's really, I told you that you were fine a second ago. You should have just.
That's not safe for the girl.
Should have just went with that.
If you have to attack a person, you don't have an argument.
Look, you came in being stupid. I pointed it out. I said something about it. You're the one that turned it into this playground.
So if you think I'm being stupid, just shut your mouth and let me
cunt.
talk.
You're an idiot.
Listen to
No.
me. You're like a child.
Guys,
You're like a little
stop being
child.
stupid.
Guys, both of you
Somebody
stop
mute this
being
guy.
stupid.
Somebody.
Okay, Mr. Reality, listen. Whenever he said that, Mr. Reality, when he said that to you, I told you plainly. I said, you're fine, Mr. Reality, but you are coming at this from sideways. Mr. Reality, stop talking. I said, you're coming at this from sideways, and I made you aware of what the conversation was actually about. Okay, from that point, there's no issues from there. You don't have to make an issue. Okay, but by invoking Curve and telling these things, you're making issues. So it's like, nobody, we don't have to do that.
Well, hold on a second.
You're not being.
I'm invoking that guy?
Yeah,
So
that's
he
what
can
you were
come on
doing.
and just talk smack and y'all don't say anything. I mean,
Whenever he said that to you, when he invoked you, I told you that you were fine and that you were just coming at this sideways because you just showed up.
I heard you say you were fine after I said, I'm sorry, did I just talk over you? I thought I talked over somebody, and I heard you say,
No, I told you you were fine. I told you you were fine based on what Curve had said.
But after I spoke, Curve came in and said, will somebody mute this guy?
And then I said, you're fine, Mr. Reality. Now you're not fine.
Look,
now you're not fine. I
then
said you were fine after Curve had said that. Okay, so stop.
Y'all
Just
can't have
stop. Bring it back to the
conversations. I
conversation
ain't
now,
gonna
okay?
say nothing. Just mute me.
God damn it, dude. Like,
I don't
what
get
is
this server.
That was everyone's issue. When he said that, I said you're fine. Okay, let's just go back to that. You're fine, Mr. Reality. Okay, but you came at it sideways because you probably came in when we were talking about the parabolic flight, but we're not talking about that. Although at this point, the conversation's gone anyway. So.
I'll stand by.
Well, let's see if we can retrieve the conversation. What were you trying to say, Mr. Reality? Let's talk.
That's not the conversation I said was gone. Okay, conversation that was gone was the one about the orbit and acceleration. Okay. I want to talk about parabolic flights instead. Go for
I guess
it.
whoever's in charge of the server, y'all choose whatever you want to talk about. I didn't know that there was like a.
There was a conversation already taking place, Mr. Reality. That's the issue.
I'm telling Lemon. I'm not going to talk about anything. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to listen, and y'all talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I'm willing to move on to another subject if the Globers are just going to, obfuscate and say 1.1 meters per second of acceleration and then ignore the obvious, acceleration from 18.3 miles per second to 18.9 miles per second, which would be well past that range that they cited. So if we're just going to obfuscate and make excuses for the Globe, we can simply move on to another,
Over
topic.
what course of time? How long is that change taking place, Lemon?
So now it has to be what, 0.1 meters per second over
No.
6 months or something?
We'll use the speed you just said. We'll use the speeds you just said. Over what length of time is this change taking place?
This is ridiculous. If we're just
Lemon, just answer the question, Lemon. I'm going with what you just said.
I
You said
already
18.3 to 18.9. Over what length of time?
And actually, it would be a fourth of that time. It would be like over 4 months.
Okay, so over 4 months.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Over 4 months, you're talking about 0.6
0.6
meters per second changing.
So now you're saying what? 0.1 meters per second over 6 months, or what unit time is sufficient for this goalpost moving?
I'm trying to show you how to calculate acceleration. When you're accelerating from 0.3 or 8.3 to 8.9 over 4 months, it's actually over 6 months. You can say it's over 1 month. It's not going to make a difference because that's going to be so low that there's no way that you're going to perceive that with your body. That's 0.6 meters per second changing over 4 months.
So you're talking about absolute change of 0.1 meters per second versus over per unit time?
I'm talking about acceleration. Acceleration is meters per second per second. So you did 0.6 meters per second per 6 months. Now change that 6 months to seconds, and you're going to get a much smaller number.
I find this very hard to believe anyway. These experimental changes that you're talking about are in lab conditions with, I don't know, some sort of accelerometer or whatever with a certain amount of mass. If you're talking about the huge wrecking ball mass of the Earth, that changes the game entirely, assuming it's moving, which it probably isn't. I find all of this thing extremely hard to believe that the huge mass of the Earth, which has to change direction and acceleration constantly to keep a circular, orbit, would not be felt by us mere humans, especially when we're feeling 20 miles per hour in a car on Earth, but all of a sudden we can't feel thousands of miles and orders of magnitude of other speeds in space. I don't believe any of this.
You not understanding and not believing isn't an argument against it.
Brenda, I understand. And I'm just using my common sense brain to break free of the psychological conditioning that you and other Globers find yourself under over the past 500 years of Jesuit heliocentric indoctrination.
Lemon, we are not feeling 20 miles per hour. We are feeling the vibrations. And when we can see in a car items moving by, we are not feeling the speed. You've never...
You say tomato, I say tomato. I'm calling BS.
He's saying tomato, you're saying grapefruit. Okay?
Okay. You want me to go mow the lawn or stay in here?
Jeremy, you got a hot mic, buddy. But yeah, what he's saying is correct. In the car, it seems like you're feeling it, but you're not feeling the miles per hour. You're feeling the vibrations of the road, the friction. Friction is a force. The force is giving you a slight acceleration. These accelerations are just jostling you side to side in the car. The wind resistance and all that. You're not feeling the actual speed though. The speed would be a constant feeling, and there'd be no way to perceive it other than by seeing what's zooming past you.
That's still unsatisfactory, Kosho. You're feeling the jostling of the Earth too, which would also be felt with the Earth jostling to and fro as it's going through space and changing its direction in multiple ways to keep a circular path. That's still not satisfactory.
There is no jostling. There's no friction. There's no wind resistance when you're on the Earth going around the orbit of the sun. So that jostling that I just described as being in a car that's caused by the friction of the road and the wind resistance, you're not going to experience when you're in orbit.
Oh, the vacuum of space, the perfect frictionless vacuum of space that doesn't allow us to feel anything that would indicate that we're moving. Kind of convenient, don't you think? I'm a little suspicious.
You don't have to be in space to not feel movement.
Maybe, Brenda, we are motionless and at rest on pillars on top of a watery deep like the guy who made it, God said. Maybe we're wrong and he's right.
Yeah, I am
Is
so
God
tired
the deal
of this.
double G?
I mean, if you can demonstrate the pillars or anything what you said at all.
Perhaps the magnetic anomalies are where the basalt geomagnetic pillars of the Earth are, and maybe we're getting magnetic anomalies right around those pillars of the Earth.
Perhaps, or maybe not, or maybe late. Okay.
I mean, do we even know what's down there? We've only dug down like
yes.
10 miles, and we've
Yes.
only sounded down 300-400 miles at best. And they say there may be more land and stuff down there beyond that. I mean, do we really even know what's down there?
You
And
think
when
there's
we know that,
land?
we
You think
make
that
up
there's land under the ground? Is that what you're saying, Lemon?
Basalt pillars of the earth,
You think that
hell
there's
itself,
You
the
think that there's
waters of the deep, Leviathan, the water world, where demons and mermaids and sirens dwell, the ocean under the ocean? Perhaps.
Yeah, you don't believe this bullshit.
Hey,
This
Lemon,
is like
here's a
first level. This is like
Lemon.
first level medieval. You'd fit in with a medieval peasant, you know.
I won't even
shovel-
pick on you now, Lemon, because I'll just say,
Just for a
you're just having fun. You're just having fun with this now. That can only be the only case at this point. I know you believe what you said about the pillars, but I know you don't believe that there's mermaids and sirens down there.
Here's
So,
a
but it's
According to the accounts of occultists, they say that there's an ocean under the ocean.
Lemon,
The
here's a
water
question
king.
about your whole pillars.
I
thing.
vote
That-
for,
I
server
don't need
ban.
an answer. I just want to get you thinking about it. What are the pillars on?
That would be where my knowledge stops. But I guess it would be a basin of some sort, a bottom of land. Who knows?
I've really gotten tired of this little game. Really
Well,
tired of it.
Well, the four elements.
Open your mind, Brenda. But there are limits even to the heliocentric cosmology with the Big Bang expanding universe. Now, case in point, what exactly is the universe expanding into? Question mark. Just like the question mark with the
Yeah,
pillars and
good-
what they're on top of. So
Good call,
there's a
Lemon.
limit to any conception.
Good
that's
call,
true.
Lemon.
That's true, Lemon. That's where they both have that in common. But what they both don't have in common is the evidence that leads us to believe that the Big Bang is expanding at all, whether whatever it's expanding into. Whereas the pillars thing, we don't have any evidence for that. That evidence is pillars put beneath us.
What about sounding down 300-400 miles of thick land and saying that there may be more beyond? We really don't know what's down there.
Actually, we do. And the universe isn't expanding into anything. It's just expanding.
And that's speculation. That's why I said that we don't know. Because that's the best thing. We really don't know.
Hey, Lemon,
Good sir.
do you think, or does anybody in here think that Christianity, the belief thereof, of all of it, is a fool's belief?
Hell no.
Absolutely.
It's the most hell no.
Well, you're not really a
Hell
Christian.
no.
You're not really a
Let's
Christian.
not go that route.
Hang on. I will stick with someone who said a good person will do a good thing. A bad person will do an evil thing. But for a good person to do an evil thing, you need religion.
Okay, but you could. Let's not make this about personal.
Anyhow, no,
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is here, I'm sitting
Don't
here
see many
listening.
atheists flying aircraft into fucking buildings or strap bombs around.
Finish whatever your point was, Mr. Reality, because we can go down that route. We
My
don't
point
go
is,
different
I
routes.
was listening to what Lemon was saying about the stuff under the earth, and I'm standing here at the at a Navy base in the graveyard, and I'm actually walking through it right now, and I'm looking at all the tombstones in it, and they actually have the symbol of their beliefs. So one has like a Jewish, Star of Ramfan or whatever.
Star of David.
Yeah, Star of David. And then, whatever the belief was when they died. And I'm looking at how many of them actually have crosses on them. And the majority is, and I'm just thinking, how many of these people believe that there's what the Bible says about what's under the earth, Or is it
like hell?
I didn't understand any of that.
Yeah.
On your dog
Talk
tags.
about hell?
Yeah,
I
on
mean,
your dog tags, there's
I've never been somewhere with so many graves and actually seeing what they believed, I guess when they sign up in the military, they're
Yeah, when you sign up,
what they believe.
Yeah, and you gotta check a box that they put on your dog tag.
So I'm standing in the middle of all this, looking at these thousands of these graves, and the majority are Christians. And it just makes me think, it's like, what did they believe about the Bible?
We're in America. I can think from experience that most people, you're just checking a box, and a lot of them might not even be that religious at all. But a lot of them probably are. But I mean, I had Jewish on mine, but my cosmology is not going to be based on that.
Yeah, that's.
And are you in Pensacola?
What's that?
Mr. Reality, I would like to add, many Europeans are quite secular, but I heard many Americans are rather religious, right?
Yeah, we're going for a full theocratic dictatorship here pretty soon.
So are you in Pensacola, Mr. Reality?
Who are you talking about?
Well, Trump is a centrist Democrat. Before he ran as a Republican, he was just a centrist Democrat. Recently, he's gone, I guess, a bit more religious, supposedly, but other than that, he's just a moderate, centrist, kind of liberal-leaning Democrat, more or less.
Yeah, that's that's completely false. It's not even almost.
Well, 2 Corinthians walked into a bar, according to Trump.
According to Trump, 2 people walk into a bar?
2 Corinthians walk into a bar. He didn't even know it was 2 Corinthians. I'm an atheist, and I fucking knew that.
Well, he's had other gaffes. I mean, he's pro-American. He's trying to, do what's best for America.
He's anti-American. Trump is. Do we want to get into?
No.
Into politics here, because I'll go.
It's like one person says one thing, a minute later we're talking about fucking ice cream in China or some shit like that. So it doesn't matter what the hell's going on.
Coach, by the way, I am in Pensacola.
That's cool, man. Pensacola. I'm not sure if we're gonna get into what you were talking about, Mr. Reality, but.
Well, I guess the main thing is, God is the only person who was there. He's the only one who's qualified to tell us what happened, how he measured the line across the deep, how he bowed the skies, how he made the firmament to separate the waters above from the waters below.
Who was there before God? Who was there before God?
God is eternal and unmade. So there was nobody before him. Nobody.
Yeah, that's just.
Okay, well, if God was the only one who was there, and he's the only one who can tell us, then why do we trust what people wrote in the Bible?
Because it's the Word of God.
Why is it the Word of God? Because it's written by God. How do we know it was written by God? Because it's the Word of God.
No, it wasn't written by God. We know.
Ways to test the Bible. You test it with history. You test it with prophecy, with the prophets 1,000 years ago.
It gets everything wrong.
A vision from God and seeing how it pans out in history. That kind of verifies what the Bible says.
I'll stop you there before you embarrass yourself more. Two things. First and second chapter of Genesis, there are 2 completely contradictory stories, accounts for Adam and Eve coming into existence. That's number 1. Number 2, there is in the Bible it says it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to pass through the gates of heaven, and that is based on a false translation from Greek into Latin.
Wait, that would be the eye of the needle.
What's the relevance to this, by the way?
Yeah. No. There were 2 Greek words very similar. One was camelos and one was camelos. Camelos in Greek actually does mean camel, but camelos means rope. And the original saying was, it's easier for a rope to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. There you go. You got two things that are fucked up about the Bible. For inerrant word of God, just off the top of my head, not doing.
Why don't we argue what we're saying?
The translations may be problematic, so what you're saying is a bit of a straw man. God's word remains. The translations have changed. It's a straw man to say that just because there's a translation issue, that there's a problem with the word of God. That's not right.
That gets everything wrong.
Let's talk about what the people are talking about. Like, respond to what somebody says, not something else that's happening in the Bible. So we don't have to go another direction about camels and ropes and all that. He said that God
I wanted to ask.
Let's move on. But before we do, I just want to mention that I went to Israel in '98, and if you ever heard the Eye of the Needle, it's where like people go in. It's where they if an emergency happens, they shut the gates, but you can come in through a small section, but you can only move through real quick. It's made so people can get in, but you know, a ton
I've
of
heard of that
military.
rationalization. It doesn't hold water.
But a
Not
ton
for-
of
not for the
military
tank.
can't get through. So it's just, it's like a little entrance that people can still get in.
Yeah,
And run to safety.
it doesn't hold water because I've heard this version of it. It doesn't hold water.
Have you ever been to Egypt? Look at the
Hell no.
hieroglyphs.
Too
That's
fucking
pretty
hot
cool.
for me.
Well, if
Oh,
you go
no,
to
that-
Egypt,
no,
look
seriously,
at the
I'd die.
hieroglyphs. Look at the stuff the Egyptians painted, and you'll see the paintings of the very thin cows and the fat calves. Whenever they had a, anyhow, you'll read in the Bible too the same thing, and look at. There's a lot of cool stuff in Egypt that lines up with what the Bible says in the hieroglyphs.
Except for the evidence of, 2 million people leaving all at once. None of that.
No, there's a painting. There's a painting of them actually leaving. Matter of fact, my uncle has a Bible college, and he told me that like 5 days ago, which I didn't even know about it. He, I'll go ahead and tell you. He got hired by the state of Israel. Him and a local news crew went over there 25 years ago. Anyhow, did a big documentary. And he went to Graceville, became a Bible scholar, got his doctorate and all this crazy mess. Anyhow, so he went over there, and he takes his Bible students whenever they graduate every year. So he's gone, 100 and something times. So Israel hired him on. Anyway, so I mean, he's got all this really cool stuff from there. So he knows all the details, which I had no idea about that. But he says, oh, there's paintings over there that lines up with what the Bible talks about, which is, I've never heard of. And I went to Bible college. I never even read about it.
What?
Well, you think all these stories in the Bible.
No. I'm sorry. No, I heard everything else you said. I didn't hear where you said you went. I thought you said you went to.
Yeah, I went to seminary school.
Oh, okay. Oh, actually, that's what I heard. Okay, that's cool. I was just curious.
Well, I was going to be.
Honestly, I was about to tell you. You sound like you could be a priest or a pastor or something like that. Like the way you talk. But yeah, that makes sense.
Huh.
Like if you were to tell me that you worked as a pastor, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense because it's kind of the way you talk. But let's go seminary school.
Yeah.
That 4 years or 2 years or something.
It was cool. Well, you can do 2 year, 4 year. But what I mainly was into is like music ministry, not the kind of music like you get up with in front of a choir and lead a choir. I was into rocking. You know what I mean? I was gonna do like Switchfoot, Stone Temple Pilot, Rage Against the Machine sound, but more of a Christian, positive, thing is what I was going for. But I don't know, man. You just got to know the right people. You know what I mean? So I really didn't go anywhere with it.
By the way, here's a fun fact. Talking about music, you can sing every psalm to the tune of Yellow Rose of Texas.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw something like that on YouTube.
Yeah, and you can sing the Lord's Prayer to the tune of Amazing Grace. Try it.
How does the tune of the first one you said go?
Yellow Rose of Texas.
Yeah, how does the tune go?
Every psalm you can sing to the tune of Yellow Rose of Texas.
Yeah, can you hum the tune real quick?
I don't know the words.
Okay, let's think of the most ridiculous song he'll know, so I can make it work. Hit 'Em Up by Tupac. Let's go.
But if you think of the Lord's Prayer and sing it to the tune of Amazing Grace, fits perfectly.
Oh, so you're saying all the church songs can go according to that song?
No, all the
No,
psalms.
he said every single song.
Oh,
The psalm. The psalms.
Okay, do Despacito.
But the easiest one is, the Lord's Prayer and sing it to the tune of Amazing
No,
Grace.
no, you're not getting out of this one.
What?
Despacito with the yellow whatever.
He said Psalm.
Yellow Rose of Texas.
P-S-A-L-M. Yeah.
Oh, this is your accent. My bad.
Sorry, yeah.
Of course, not every song, man. What the hell?
Yeah, no, sorry.
You never know, man.
No.
There's so much repetition in the music industry. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's true. I've given up.